What is up, YouTube? Today we've got another Legend account review. This time we are interviewing or reviewing the famous or infamous Bobuwao. As you can see on screen here, great profile card that haunted me throughout the season. Not really sure what anime it's from, but I'm sure I'm going to ask him in the review itself. But a couple things about Bobu and why I want to interview him. Similarly to Alifton in the video that you saw previously, if you haven't, make sure you go check it out. Bobu was one of those players that I fought throughout the season where I just really couldn't figure out. He was very creative with the builds that he had for the meta that was constantly shifting with the new release of MLua and people adapting their builds and things like that. One notable pick that really messed me up was Effect Resistance Nahkwol, something that I absolutely would not have expected. But we'll see all of his builds in this video. If you guys do want to see more Legend account reviews this season, next season, whatever, make sure you leave a comment below in terms of who you might want to see interviewed, maybe even not Legend, maybe. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe for the algorithm. You guys know what to do. And we'll jump straight in with Bobu. So thank you. Let's go ahead. All right, Bobu. So first things first, I just want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you, to do the whole account review. As you know, I know you've been in my streams often and also in other Discords. You know how I feel about you. You make me mauled. You kind of my father this past season. You gave me a lot of trouble, right?
Yeah. All I've been hearing is that you've been calling me your father. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Because last day, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't figure you out, man. So I was like, man, I really gotta figure this guy out, right? But I couldn't. So yeah, really happy to have you on, and I'm really excited to have the YouTube community or people on Twitch here just seeing your build or builds, I mean, because your account's really unique in the way that you play because you have a limitation in some of your gear and stuff. So, but anyway, I won't yap too much. I'll let you take it away. Do it however you want and say whatever you want to do for your little introduction here.
However I want. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Bobu. I've been playing Epic 7 for about 5 years now. And so far, I've been, I'm a very low spender player if you count like the $150 pack I bought like years ago. But other than that, I haven't really spent much. So I think what motivates me most playing Epic 7 is the community. It's like the only reason why I've stayed this long is because everyone's been so nice and like welcoming, and like every day I feel welcomed, like discussing and learning out about RTA. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun like playing RTA and like learning new things every season. All right. Okay. So I guess we can start the frames, but
Yeah, who's your profile card? Quick question. Which anime is that from? Like your profile card. Is it from an anime?
yes, it's from an anime. So this, I think quite a lot of people should recognize it. Maybe I didn't do it too well, but yeah, this was made by myself. It's from Frieren. Frieren, the one about the long age elf. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And I have a few more, but it's just a bunch of random cards I made. Like this is very obviously Violet Evergarden. Yeah. I make a bunch of them in my spare time.
Yeah, they're very nice. They're very nice.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, let's talk about the frames. So I have to say this, right? When I started off climbing the ladder, I actually started Masters because I didn't know what I was doing the first few seasons. So like you can see here the slow progression, right? I jumped to Challenger and then Champion and then Champion, and then once M started release, like once M got released, I actually started taking the game more seriously because around this early period, I was actually playing as a casual player. But I think my first Emperor was very memorable to me because I started as one of those 48% win rate game spammers. I made it in with 6 units and nothing but free gear. So I just remember the last day, like once the clock hit season end, like at 11 a.m. for me, I just passed out straight away. And then yeah, it's one of the best feelings. And then from there, I think it's very slow progress. But these, like, I spent these few M seasons like reviewing and trying to improve myself until I eventually hit my first legend, which was of course very very momentous occasion. Yes. And yeah, it's what basically told me that yeah, I've reached a point where I can call myself good, or like be happy for myself. Like I was always striving to like get better at the game. So hitting legend, like for me, meant that I gotten to the point where I'd say my practice paid off. Yeah. Okay. Oh, but yeah. There's actually a reason why I don't use my frames. If anyone's wondering, like most of the time you'll see me queue in ladder, I don't use any frames at all because I actually just prefer the default frame. Because actually I think the default frame looks the coolest.
Humble.
Because these frames are very big and clunky. Like I prefer not having a frame most of the time.
So out of the three legend frames that you have, or the
Hmm.
Emperor frames, I mean, which season is the most memorable to you so far out of all your seasons playing?
Definitely this season, right? Definitely this season. My first Emperor and my first Legend, right? And I'd say this season is a season of regret because I boomed 180 points on the last day. It was kind of a disaster.
Oh man, you hate to see
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I tilt cute, but this season, I mean, I got in with free gear, so I was ecstatic. This season, I mean, nobody knew who I was at this point, right? But I sent you my old album. If
Hmm.
you saw what was in that old album, it's not good.
Yeah,
It's not
I
good.
had a quick peek, and we'll show the people too watching the video. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I can only imagine how happy you were like getting Emperor with free to play gear, but your first
yeah.
Legend. I mean,
It was also free to play.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it was also very free to play. Like yeah, but yeah, it's been really fun so far.
cool,
All
cool.
right, so let's take a look at the builds. I sort by CP, so some of these builds will be irrelevant. Like some of them are just for PVE. So I'll start with the builds that I actually use.
Okay.
Okay, this is Taeyou. Although he's been nerfed quite a lot, right? He used to be 280. He used to be 280 on damage. But the reason why I think quite a lot of people thought Taeyou was good is because they thought it countered the poly BBK,
Hmm.
which it didn't. So I ended up like going through multiple revisions until I just finally gave up and I just unget him.
Mm.
I just realized that he is not a great unit.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
early, like throughout early season, even like maybe mid season, we definitely did see you pick Taeyou here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah, as time went on, he kind of fell off. I totally agree.
Yeah. Like people just realized that Taeyou was just not a great unit, and then they found how to deal with him.
Hmm.
This is just a normal Celine. Not like the best, but it's any kind of Celine.
Hmm. Gets the
Yes.
job done.
Gets the job done.
Hmm.
Is this BBK is just for village. I don't play BBK aggro, right? So this is just to damage check people in the village. Some people do build ER, right? But towards the end, right, a lot of people started running F Hasadi. So I just ditched all the F rests and I went to full damage instead. And
Hmm.
I played pure cleansers. So
Right.
like I could ignore F rest. I mean the F Hasadis.
Yeah, for
This is
some
village,
people
right?
that don't know what village means, sorry to cut you off.
Hmm.
Village is basically in referencing when Harseti is in the field, because most of the builds that are traditionally how they are built, whether it's speed or counter, or whatever set, they might just be tweaked to be like 50k, 35k HP, whatever degenerate, really slow builds to tune with Harseti. So that's what village means. But sorry, continue.
All right. And then this is basically the Spookieheim Spookieheim Rylet Village Rylet. Right? Everyone started playing this because of AB, right? I tested him and with AOL he's pretty good. He's basically a single target tank buster. You use him to kill Haste, you use him to kill like LRKs like that. But yeah, the reason why he's on Violet Talisman is because I just straight up ran out of artifacts. So it's every time I queued into a game with Violet, I was just praying 50% would work. Which is not a great feeling, but you know.
Yeah.
All right. This is self-proclaimed best in the world SSV. I
But
think I was the only player on ladder who was spamming this unit. I think
yeah,
like
let me
quite a
quickly
lot of
just give you a round of applause because you are Mr. SSV. So
okay. Yes, I am Mr. SSV. I mean this unit isn't great. I will admit, right? Like a lot of people struggle to how to use her, right? Because she just doesn't do enough damage in certain situations, right?
Mhm.
You need a lot of support to set up, and even after you set her up, she might not win. That's how whack she is. But this is I mean let me just flex the gear score real quick. I worked real hard on her.
Wow.
I worked real hard on her. Yes,
Wow.
but yes, yeah.
That
Um,
is wow.
yes. But she's been like my main DPS because of this season having so much debuffs, right? She can be
Mhm.
played in quite a lot of situations.
Mhm.
Like this season plays a lot of debuff checks like Lua, like DDR,
Mhm.
Being able to be immune to those kind of CC and like apply pressure turns 1 to 2 is very, very important for me. At least since my gear probably like I will lose out in terms of bulk, right? So
Mm.
having the first few turns is very important for me. Yeah.
So a quick question for you. So I know a lot of people
Mm.
in Legend have kind of a preference on whether they do destruction or lifesteal SSV. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on a destruction SSV versus a lifesteal?
Okay, so very simply, right, the reason why most people would play Destruction over Lifesteal, right, is because they're playing for a shorter game, right? They're using SSV to set up for kills. They're using SSV to finish the game within the first few turns, right? Basically, Lifesteal SSV will show more value in longer games. She doesn't do as much damage early on, right? But she will like her value is like slowly chipping down the enemy team and then winning the 1v1 in the eventual end game, right?
Mm-hmm.
But with Destro SSV, you're using it to kill like an important unit early on, or using it to set up a kill for like let's say BBK,
Mm-hmm.
something like
Mm-hmm.
that. Yeah.
Right, right. Great
So
point.
as
Great
less of
point.
an aggro player,
Mm-hmm.
as less of an aggro player, right? I play for my own defensive playstyle, which is
Mm.
lifestealer.
Mm.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
All right. Uh, here's Jenua. He's not very good. Uh, I ran out of gear towards the end of the season, but uh he has this funny looking CC neck on him.
Wow,
That's why he has
that's a crazy
SAC.
necklace.
Yeah,
Wow, 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 wow.
yeah. But the thing is, I ended up building bulk, and the bulk actually has won me some games. Like having 11k HP with like let's say a Senya spread, you know. Sometimes certain things right don't one shot you, and you keep your immortal. Like that's been quite valuable. I've learned. But other than that, this is just ER Gen 1, right? It's built to play around my poly,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I think I was watching Aliston's account review, right? Something about okay. I think the difference between any normal player and any good player, right, is you'll notice that a lot of the accounts, right, of good players, they're always geared around their best win cons. So
Mm.
for me, like my best win cons are geared around like poly, right? You see a lot of my DPS play around my having poly on the field. Whereas Aliston geared around like let's say his Lua, right? He had a lot of prot sets for his Lua. He had a lot of immunity for his Lua. So you'll notice that any good player will have their account built around their win cons. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're able to tell their win cons, you're able to build your account around that, you'll become a better player. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. Like, kind of figuring out the gear that you have, kind of like
Yeah.
what tools you have, and then kind of making a
Yeah.
playstyle of it, right? And one thing I want to add on that you highlighted really quickly is you mentioned that you have a little bit of bulk on Genua, and I also want to
Yeah.
highlight why it's actually good towards the latter end of the season. I think it most popularized by Asia server, where if you have a
Yeah.
bit of a tankier Genua, if you have like a mitigation or a prot set, Harseti can't just tag you and proc you turn one, right? Because you can't get Seer on her turn. So I think that's also like a huge thing to consider when you are playing the slower Genuas into Harseti. That's why some of the bulk is actually not bad. So I want to make sure people are aware of that as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right. Next one. The Senya is an ER. Senya is ER, right? I use this sometimes in the cleavers, right? Cleavers would S3 with Veronica, and then they would see resist, 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 and it was the best feeling in the world to me. Right.
Yeah, I have nightmares
Yeah.
about this one. Yeah.
Yes. And it's also pretty useful in the village, right? Hasadi cannot tag it unless it's F. You know, it's very hard to injure her because she has this bastion. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for her, I always play her on spread, right? Because she's never my main win condition,
Mm-hmm.
right? She's always just there to give my team more HP and be slightly annoying with like chip damage of like 6 to 7k.
Mm-hmm.
So I never really play her as the main win condition, though. So that's why her HP is kind of low and her speed is not like impressive either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This Gala's a bit sad looking, but I mean, she worked for what she was, right? I didn't have. I think this Gala was pretty important because like even if I'm a slow player, it's quite important to have single target burst, right? So I can set up for BBKs. Maybe I can apply pressure. I can force them to ban it, right? Like just
Mm-hmm.
having Gala built was very very valuable already that season,
Mm-hmm.
last season.
I think that's a great point too,
Um,
because I think a lot of people think, oh, I can't hit the 4K 300, 270 or whatever, and they just kind of go for a much slower build. But it's a great point
yeah.
that you highlight that when you pick her, she needs to operate in that on those conditions and get you the win con, right? So it's a great point.
Yeah. And to add on to that, right, there's something, I mean, okay, as someone with lesser gear than most other Legend players, there's something that I use a lot. It's called fake it till you make it. Um, Basically, I like to pick ungeared units sometimes. I think I've done this multiple times with certain people. I would pick like stuff like ungeared Sage Ball, right? Stuff that I know that will force a ban, right? So I don't actually have to have the unit gear. I just click it very quickly, right? And people will respect it, right? Sometimes it's actually very useful because if you don't have a unit gear, you have it 6-star weekend, right? You can actually force a ban on a unit.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you think you're lost, right? Like let's say you need Amiki, your Amiki Sanke, you just slam it anyway. They will ban it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because being able to force a ban is actually very important in draft.
Mm-hmm.
And I think yeah, that's something that people can use, although you need some draft knowledge to get to that point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think I switched this off. I was using a village Straze much earlier on in the season, but I ungeared him because he wasn't like getting many match times. So like I was just never picking him. So I just ended up like switching him back to some hunt gear or something.
I see.
Okay, this is village RB.
Wow. That attack starts with a 6.
This is a village RB. I use this basically yeah, it just one shots everything. There's nothing more to say.
Wow.
It gaps, it goes sickle mode, and it wipes the enemy off the screen.
Hey, can we get an EE check on that? Are you max EE too?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Basically, yeah, he's just there to check like super tanky teams, right? He's just good burst damage. Wow. Very good burst damage.
Yeah, for sure. Can you click on the equipment score button?
Actually, it's actually not insane, but yeah. This thing's holding it together.
Wow, yeah, 31 crit chance neck. Wow, that is that's a sick build. Sick build.
Yes. This is I think this is one of my most picked units. Regrettably, it's one of my most picked units. Seeing how Flan is this season, right? You're forced to pick on tree a lot because of how the if you play any other DPS in the Flan that season, there's a good chance you just lose. There's a good chance you just lose if you don't have Solly on your team. So I ended up picking this unit on tree a lot, even with Poly, right? Even with Poly on, like just having like Flan push up is very bad for you already because it can set up for like a defense break or something, right? Which is not good. But yeah.
So I know a lot of players actually played like the tanky Solly, being like really high EHP, a bit lower effectiveness, right? You opted to run for more of like a hybrid high ER effectiveness one. What is your kind of rationale behind that?
Okay, so the reason why is because my poly is on Bastion of Hope, right? So this is just to synergize. Like I can just stack more ER on this. So stuff cannot tag my stuff. Like things cannot tag my stuff. Like Flank cannot defense break this, and I can tank maybe the BBK tree, right? And then like you know, I can't get debuffed by DDR, for example. Like as I mentioned earlier, right? I play for letting my units take their turns consistently because I know that in terms of general gear quality, right, my DPS and some of my tanks will lose out to other people's. So yeah, that's why I prioritize always having the first few turns.
I see.
Yeah. Okay, that's my Tywin. It's what I first became known for back then. You know, I was playing Conk 8 Tywin when I first started out, but nowadays I haven't had much chance of to use him anymore because the only good drafts with him, right, was protection set, right, and you played turn 2, but I didn't have a protection set. Or you played aggro with him, right, 250, but I didn't have the speed for aggro, as you're gonna see very soon. Yeah, so he's been just sitting on the bench this season. Although I wish I could play him more, but you know, I don't play BBK a lot. I don't play any burst DPS a lot, right? You see, all my DPS are in tune for it, so yeah. This is my Alencia. She's pretty good. Her boot has been switched out. I actually modded it for someone else, but I switched it back to her. But yeah, I'd say that she was a useful pick only in situations where you know your enemy doesn't have CC. Otherwise, she's kind of bad. Otherwise, she's kind of bad. I don't see much value in this unit, even after I've tried her with multiple supports. I think the best way to run her is not this artifact, but on Sweet Miracle. But nobody has more than 2 Sweet Miracles, I think.
Well, I mean, I think to add on to that, the reason why you say that, and correct me if I'm wrong, is because with Sweet Miracle, you can kind of forego immunity, right? If you have this artifact, you don't get the cleanse on the first turn, and her first turn is so valuable, right?
And also, yeah, she needs to be that to set up. She needs to consistently, like, I mean, I played matches with where this Alencia has just sat there and did nothing for the whole game, and then by the time she gets her first turn, she's already like 0 HP,
right?
Like, very low HP, right? Because it's very easy to CC her. She does not have any anti CC, and nobody is gonna build her ER. I don't think anybody is building her ER.
100%, yeah.
Yeah. This is Belian. This is just meant to trap Jackal Cleavers. Like they would S3 with Zio, and they would find resist waiting for them. Yeah, because I'll play like a very aggro style, and then I'll pick Belian, and then they'll try to ER check me basically. So this is just ER checking Zio Cleavers. Obviously, the off cases where there's like 250 F Zeos, and then I'll just take the L. You know. I try to pick battles where I can win at least most of the battles, right? Because yeah,
go ahead.
because yeah, most people, I mean, as someone with lesser gear or someone with not as good gear, right, you have to learn how to pick your battles, right? There are just certain matchups that you cannot win against or very hard to win against, right? You can't go into someone that spent 300k and expect to beat them easily or at least beat them all the time, right? They will figure you out eventually. So pick the matches that you can win.
100%. And I think something to highlight that you haven't mentioned yet about this Belian build on the ER build is, you know, when Emma Lua came out and she was really prominent, you were one of the first players that I saw kind of make an adjustment to Emma Lua coming out where they would spam, you know, book holders on 4 or 5, right? And you would pick the Belian on 3 with the Sea Phantom Poly and denying them, right? So it was a really good adjustment that you made as well in the season.
Yes. And then people figure out that you could pick Frida. You could pick Frida and I adjusted again.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's just okay. The season is basically a season something like it's just multiple adjustments that come. You have to keep experimenting. You have to keep yourself on your toes, right? You have to keep trying new things, right? Within what you know. The better you know you get, the easier this is to do. So yeah, okay. This thing's getting outsped by Galas, but it's all right. Here's my poly. This is probably my most picked unit this season, right? You see EL, and yeah, it's 276. It's not very fast. You'll notice very quickly that this account is not very fast, but I think this unit served me well, right? I was doing this build actually since last season. Last season, I was testing it vs Para. You know, Para build. I was trying to some sort of anti-aggro, but like right after ML Dua came out, a lot of people showed up with their Bastion polys as well. So yeah, this tech became very popular, the Bastion poly tech, right? Everyone just started switching because most of their speed gear went to their Luas instead. So they would slow this Molly down and they would play ER, right? At least that's the change I noticed.
Yeah, and I think something too is like you may be, I think people watching recognize that, oh, like you're actually not as fast as say someone else that they may see on ladder or just anywhere as a content creator, but you know, you obviously have the, you know, the skill to kind of recognize that, hey, I am slow, you know, how can I work with being slow and playing some maybe unconventional builds with the ones that we've seen so far, right? So definitely something to point out as well.
Zio is Zio. He's not the best, but usually the only time I'm picking him is when I see Belian and Hasedi, and I pick this and the cleavers get very lost. I don't know why they get lost, but I pick it and most of the time I just win. Because yeah, they're usually playing for their Zio Love with cleave. So as if I'm second, I'm playing like something like Prot Candy and like AOL. But usually I get first. I'm just playing Zio and they are playing turn 2 into me for some reason. So I always get to lock poly on 3 for some reason. And yeah, I just take the win from there. Okay. Yeah, DDR. I think this unit is the cancers of all cancers. This unit, I think he's just super strong, right? He basically turns any like losing matchup into a winning matchup by being your last pick, right? Because he carries so many, like he carried the aggro team comps, he carried the standard team comps. He's the backbone of many teams, right? And knowing how to play this guy correctly will probably get you a lot of success. So yeah, they released Schneu halfway through the season, and I think that Schneu is still not a good unit. Like DDR still can play around that, right? You can time your DDR S3s, right? You can just S1 the whole game, right? You play a 3v3. Schneu does not do enough to say that it's a 4v3, right? To make this guy useless, to make DDR useless, and to be useful, right? Like Schneu does not apply enough pressure as a counter unit to this guy. So that's why Schneu wasn't very successful. But okay, moving on, right? He's basically. He's again playing with this is anti-Lua basically. So I can like check the Lua's effectiveness, assuming they don't pick books, right? Because sometimes they'll play a lot of like tanky DPS, like they'll play LRK, they'll play flat early on. So this guy's very important towards that. Yeah.
And also like you play Bastion of Hope Poly, right? So this is easily over 200 as well, right? In case people don't realize. One question before we move to the next unit. What are your thoughts as an ERDDR player, right? Playing Guardianess Crystals versus something like a Soul Constellation, right? How do you feel about the difference?
Okay, the reason why I'm on Guardian Ice Crystals is because I don't think, right, personally, I'm at the speed where getting Soul Constellation combat readiness is viable, right? Because let's say you're playing Soul Constellation, you want to be 240, you want to be 250 to abuse that combat readiness push. Because as 220, you're not cutting anything.
Mm-hmm.
You're not cutting anything. You're going to get natural speed lab with like a poly enrage, for example. But
Mm-hmm.
let's say you're 250 or 260, you cut in between the 8 Tywin, everything's asleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm playing this kind of raid because I also play him for standard. Like I actually a side note, right? I actually have two DS. I had one build like throughout the season. I graced him, but I realized that I wasn't going to play aggro. So um I switched back to only having one DDR, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I think I just played for the standard matchup towards the end. Like I didn't really need the second one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, having two DDRs that season was very valuable, assuming you could flex playstyles.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming you could flex playstyles.
Mm-hmm.
Because my ID is very rigid in terms of its playstyle, it can only play defensive, let's say turn 1.5 aggro or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
End up never needing the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah. But yeah, the reason why he's like this is because of his speed, and yeah, I've also played him for standard. Like he's a all size fits one kind of DDR, basically. He's
100%.
played in Village, yeah, he's played in anti-aggro. Okay, the next one is Nahkwol. Nahkwol.
Before you say anything,
Yes. Yes.
I hate you for picking this. Okay.
Yes,
I said
yes,
in the
yes.
very
Go
beginning
ahead.
of the
Get it out.
video
Get it all out.
that you have an
Yes.
effect resistance Nahkwol, and I went fucking bald fighting your
Yeah.
Nahkwol. Okay, that's all I can
Yes.
say. Go
Yes.
ahead.
Just let it all out.
The floor
Yes.
is
Okay.
yours. Go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. I mean, firstly, alright, this Nahkwol is tuned for Laia, which you'll see later on at 250, right? It's tuned for. So if they have Soulburn, right, I have backup. But sometimes, some people would forget to pick souls into me. And they think like, oh, this guy has two openers, right? He has two openers, right? He's gonna get provoked by my lure, and they would load into the game, right? They would load into the game, they would see quad resist, and it would not be a good day for them. It would not. Yeah. This is basically to catch people off guard, right? Because a lot of people, like when they see Nahkwol as 4/5, they think like Lua counters it, right? So I thought about it for a bit, and I was like, okay, if I play Nahkwol and they don't ban it, I need this to actually be useful. So that's why it's on ER, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think Nahkwol is probably one of the units that made me quite mad this season. Mad as in like sometimes this unit is really bad because it just doesn't land anything at all, or other than that you just don't get to play the game. Like it's a very like stifling unit to play against. Like this design is not good, but she's a very necessary unit also, I'd say, because of how Elbrus was so strong that one season. But
Mm-hmm.
right now, being used with Laia LK, it's like this thing has no cooldown. This
Mm-hmm.
thing has no.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, to highlight as well, I think something that a lot of players that are watching this don't realize as well is you said, you have it slower than Laia, right? Most Laia is the 250, 260 range, right? And the reason why you have it so slow, correct me if I'm wrong, is because you want the Laia to do the cleanse, to take the turn,
Yes.
and then you're still
Yes.
hidden by Guiding Light, and then you do the reset afterwards, and it's still fine, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's also situations where they have book, right? So I get stripped still. With like my guiding light's gone, but I still cleanse, right? Basically the ER is a failsafe I fall back on in the
Mm-hmm.
case where they don't have any, let's say they don't have any provokes. I
Mm-hmm.
mean they don't have any books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Here's Briar.
Oh
Briar is
my god.
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I actually rarely pick this unit. I thought I could try it a little bit, but I've only ever used this once in Anti-Cleave, and it's worked. But that's the extent of it. I think how I did the anti-cleave is I pretended I was 320 speed, so I picked this thing on 3, and they started slowing down. So they started slowing down, or they died basically because they were slowing down for 180 speed Briar, which was not great because I was slower than all their DPS, so I could set up for my BBK. I remember the game quite clearly.
Yeah, I mean, and this speed
Yeah.
is kind of perfect for BBK too, because when
Mm,
BBK loses a bit of HP at the speed that you have
mm,
her, right? Because she gets that
yeah,
passive speed boost where as she loses HP, your Briar is basically tuned to be right there in front of the BBK to enable the death break into the sweep, right? So
yeah.
that's a huge thing to consider as well if you ever do play the Briar enabler for any DPS.
Hmm. Okay, moving on. Laia. I'll be honest right now, I think this unit kind of saved my life because I was actually struggling a lot, right? I was like thinking halfway through the season, like what kind of win cons do I need, right? And then I realized I could just take my Conqueror Sweet Miracle because I wasn't using her. So then once I get Laia, like everything started smooth sailing. I was just playing Laia DDR and my points were going up, you know. Life was good. Life was good. Society peace was the society was restored. But this unit, I think it made a resurgence, right? Especially since I banned Ilinav and Duna, right? It made a resurgence. I just realized that I could play this unit because she's cleanse, she's damage, she's dual attack, she's basically everything I needed. And she helped me gain quite a lot of I mean I eventually pivoted to playing Laia DDR towards the end of the season because this unit is just busted when Ilinav is gone.
We all
Actually
love
even when
Laia.
Ilinav isn't gone.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like I've noticed a disturbing trend, you know, at the end of every season, you know, Laia Nahkwol, you know, they always make their way back. They always find their way back into the meta.
Yep.
It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. I don't use this unit. I pre-ban her all the time. She is just for Guild War, so I'm skipping her.
Okay.
This is Conk. It's just your regular 300 speed, not really, but around there, Conk. Right? It's just the speed contest, right? Speed contest, as in I am 320 speed. Please respect my speed. Thank you. So I pick this on tree sometimes, and I use it to reaggress into like let's say I apply speed pressure on like let's say poly players, right? They'll pick poly. I pick like Kong Lilibet, and then I would take and they are forced to slow down into me, right?
Hmm.
Because I can still disable their team quite well. Like yeah, that's basically what I picked her for. But she didn't get much picks this season because I was playing the DDR most of the time, and this unit is not great if you
Yeah.
have Miracle.
And also,
Yeah.
you don't have another Sweet Miracle, right? So it's
Yes,
hard to
I
play
only have one.
Conqueror. If they do outspeed, you
Yes.
would say Emalua or something like that.
Yes, if they outspeed Mamalua, I'm cooked.
Hmm.
Okay, this is just a village LK, right? Nothing special about him. He's just tanky. He's just on EL, some EL, and that's it.
Hmm.
Nothing much to say about this guy. This is just a regular old Mort. Also, I think Mort changed a lot of things this season, though. Like him just existing as a unit has made a lot of people play differently. Like Euphines are all gone. Like nobody's picking that unit again. You're seeing this guy in Cleaves, you know. I think people tried using him as a lure counter, but he is not. He is not really a lure counter. I
Hmm.
think the worst part about lure is probably her challenge buff and not actually the counter attacks. The counter attacks are actually not really that valuable, right? I
Hmm.
think pre-buff Lua would have suffered against this guy because pre-buff Lua needed the counters to activate.
Hmm.
But post-buff Lua, post-buff Lua is a whole different beast.
Of course,
I'm sure
yeah.
I've yes,
Yeah, because I mean,
I'm sure
if you're
you've
not
had,
able
yeah.
to provoke them to and get the counters off, the S1 chip damage is still like more than enough, right? And constantly provoking them more so that you can't get the fear off, it's already problematic enough in itself.
Yeah. This poly is it's just on whatever gear. It's just holding gear right now. I mean, it's just there to pick and get banned. That's it.
I see.
Uh, I don't. I think I used this unit one time the entirety of last season, and the one time I did pick her, I got Abyssal Crown 20 times in a row. So I was not very happy that match. I was
I
not
see.
very happy,
I
but
see.
yes. This is Anti-Thief, Angelica. It's just a cut, right? It's fast. It has some bulk. I played with Proc Candy, and then yeah, I switched off Proc Candy like towards the end of the season because I realized like all the cleavers were just gone. So I
Hmm.
just went back to playing standard. And
So
most of the cleavers, yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
I think someone so even for myself, like I'm a little bit unfamiliar with the faster AOL. So can you maybe tell the people watching like what is the reason for having AOL at such a high speed where we normally see something at say like a 200, 220, 230 range?
Basically, she's just there to threaten the cut, right? Because usually with Angelica of Light, you are threatening like let's say, oh, you know, I'm fast, so you have to do this burn here, or you have to press S3 on this unit instead of another unit, right? So having her fast is just to threaten like a cut, to disrupt basically in between, like let's say a Ludwig, let's say a run, basically.
Hmm.
Yeah. Because she does have the passive cut if she's not hit, right? If her teammates hit instead.
Hmm.
So yeah, she sometimes can force that. But most of the time I didn't get to pick this unit a lot because most of the cleavers were gone
Hmm.
more like towards the end of my run for some reason.
Hmm.
This is the standard Delipet, I think. Pretty alright. Yeah.
May I have your
I
thoughts
think
on
yeah.
Golden Rose versus Draco Plate, which I think is a really uh, like talked about question in the community when building Dilibet is which one's better, right? What do you think?
Okay. The reason why I have Draco Plate in her is not by choice, is because I just ran out. I only have a plus 21. So the reason why Draco Plate's on her is because of I would just wanted the stat increase and a max artifact on her. But I would say if you standard player, Golden Rose is actually better. Like I would say if I had the choice, I would pick Golden Rose over Draco Plate any day. Because the thing about Golden Rose is that you still can heal to full. Like being able to heal to full as a Delibet is actually very valuable, rather than nuking, right? Nuking as a turn 2 Delibet. Like being able to recover, basically, to sustain is very important, I'd say.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah, here's Edward. He's just, Red Rocket. Yeah. Just the anti-thief.
Made to kill.
Made to kill. Born to kill. Oh. So before you ask me about my F, right? I'll say this first. This is it's a happy accident. This haste is a happy accident, right? Because the thing is, I don't have a lot of good slow bulk gear, right? So I end up building this kind of haste, and I realized that in the village, right, a lot of people play only 100 ER. So I was just going to village and I was S1ing Amikis, and it would tag the Amiki, and Amiki would disappear. Same thing for BBKs. It would tag the BBK, and the BBK would disappear. Even if they're ER, I just tag it anyway. Because this guy is, I think he's around 150F with his buff, right? So like BBK will be mortal, right? It'll be resist. I'll just S3, and I'll kill the BBK anyway. So this effectiveness actually had a lot of value. Would I recommend anyone to build effectiveness on their haste? No. No, I would not. Just build full bulk, go proof of valor for anti-aggro, and you're set.
Right. Happy accident, right? Happy accident.
That's the happy accident.
Gotcha.
Yes. I will call him a happy accident.
Okay.
Okay. Sharun is just slow and tanky. It's just for anti-DDR. I think there's not much to say about this unit, right? It's just set up for maybe BBK every now and then anti-DDR. That's about it. Same for Roana. Roana is Roana. I mean, nothing much to say about her either. She's just there to get a ban when Amiki's on the field, usually. Oh, this Candy. The sad thing about Candy is I only ever pulled her after she became meta. I mean, she became off meta. She became a useless DPS, right? Because when I started playing RTA like more seriously, like this unit was everywhere. And so I was so excited. I crafted an event ring for her, which was the biggest mistake of this account, I'm pretty sure. I was like, oh my god, I finally gotten the most broken unit. And then I built her, I killed into RTA, and I got killed by a flan. And I realized that, maybe some people make mistakes. Life is full of ups and downs, but this Candy's pretty good, yeah. Like this neck I got from Rift event. Holy.
Wow, that's a crazy neck.
Yes, it's going on my Hua once I pull her. Assuming I pull her. But yeah. Oh. It's a Miki.
I see 285s. Is that intentional?
Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a. Yeah, this unit. I mean, she did fine for when I picked her. Because most of the time they weren't picking strips into her anyway. She'll just come out as last, and she'll kill the squishy units, and I'll call it a day. Actually, having some bulk on the Miki is quite useful. I'd say same situation as Jenua, right? Because sometimes you don't want your immortal to proc early. But other than that, I think she's just a good anti-cleave, anti-aggro, like you check the DPS kind of situation, right? But yeah, my Amiki is not very good. I don't recommend anyone follow my example. Alright, moving on. It's proc Ruele. This unit had 0 pick rate for me throughout the season, I think. I think I picked up five times in total. She is just very boring. I do not want to make my opponent, or I myself do not want to suffer a match that lasts longer than 40 turns where possible. So I've never picked her.
Honorable.
It's not a good thing to have.
Very honorable.
Yes. That's just a default Hasari. She's a bit lower on the crit damage because sometimes I do want to proc certain things. Like let's say,
Jenua?
Senya, Jenua, stuff like that. Yeah. And then it's on Abyssal because I think that F10 artifact is more valuable if you're slightly higher damage. Because sometimes you can proc the Jenua and then strip him, right? But this gave me slightly more utility, right? I could just sit there and pray that Abyssal wins me the game. It's slightly better for someone with lesser damage. Yes. Alright. Flan is Flan. I rarely pick this unit. I don't like picking her either. Not because my artifact is plus 15, but because it just feels very clunky, right? When Poly is up, when Solly's up. Usually she's not like the first DPS I think of, right? Because I think the best way, at least that season, to play Flan, right? Since I don't think most people pre-ban Soli, because if you're pre-banning Soli, you're definitely playing Flan for standard. But if you're playing Flan, right, usually you're playing her for aggro. You use her to set up for aggro. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
where most people saw success with her. That's why I
Mm-hmm.
rarely pick this unit.
Mm-hmm.
The only time I pick her is when I see my opponent pre-ban for her, or like I know they're gonna pick her, so I steal it from them instead. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Veronica is Veronica. It's just on some speed, some effectiveness. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
This is villager hand guy. He has not been picked a single time this season.
Interesting
It's
build.
okay.
I see. I see.
It's interesting.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Okay.
Yes. And this is the last quote unquote built unit for the season, actually. Alencia, it's Karin. This is anti-thief. I ran out of artifacts also, so I just put him on Gaia. So it just ended up being on Gaia decision. I would put the forced artifact from Hall of Trials, the Shepherds of Chaos, right? The one that buffs his defense on him instead. But yeah. I think that's really all the units I tested that season. I think some other units I did test were Tempest Siren for fun. Uh to which at the end of the season I built Ravi, realized she was useless for me, and then I ungeared her again. I also tried this Ravi. She was not very good. And I think I was playing Melissa for the early part of the season. Melissa is a really fun unit to play. Yeah. And I think that's all the units already. Yeah, that's all the units. It's a very, very small roster. If you
Yeah.
see, like it's not even like I think most legends or most emperors even have probably twice the size of this roster.
This might be like
So
30 units, right? Maybe rough or
yeah,
30-ish units.
30 or under,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
30 or under.
Yeah.
Because there's some picks that I already picked also, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you'll notice a lot of the time my account is geared very small. Like it's very focused on like a small kind of roster. So I know my comforts. I know what to fall back on, right? Like it's so I don't tend to stray. I don't tend to experiment. Not in a bad sense. Like experiment. Sometimes you can like get lost and you're like, oh, I have this unit built. Let me just pick this randomly built unit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time I force myself to think within a very small box. So I familiarize myself with my own matchups.
Yeah,
Like
I think that's
understanding
one of
your
your
matchup is very
strengths for
important.
sure, right? Is having a
Yeah.
smaller roster. Sometimes too much is not a good thing, right? Even in life, obviously. But in your case, having a smaller roster allows you to really, really push the boundary to see what are the limitations
Yeah.
in terms of what this unit can really do, right? Switching a different build, switching a different artifact, different equipment set, different tuning, everything, right? So we can really see
Yeah.
that with a lot of the way that you build your heroes around the Sea Phantom Politis and others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, there are a few things I have to say as like someone that has been like, who's like clawed his way up basically from like zero, right? 48% to eventually hitting legend by myself, right? Because I didn't get because I wasn't actually on Twitch much early on. Like
Mm-hmm.
most of my improvement was done by myself. So like a few things that I realized along the way, right, is that you need to basically always identify what win cons your account can play, right? And then based on that, right, you plan out your pre-bans, right? You pick your pre-bans, you gear for your win cons, right? Let's say you pick one or two win cons you gear around, and then you go in RTA, and this is very important, right? You always have to keep experimenting, keep changing your builds. Something dies, you change your build. Something not working, you change your build. You want to test something, you call someone, right? You bounce your ideas off other people around you, and you keep making sure that your builds are, if not up to date, at least useful to you at some sense. Because I've seen a lot of people, right, they have a lot of units built, right, but most of them, I would say 40% of the units are just left there and like untouched most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I recommend, instead of like spreading wide, you condense it to a smaller roster and you get familiar with what you have, get
Mm-hmm.
comfortable basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one thing I have to say. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's very
And
similar to what Alithton said, right? Like identifying your weak and strong points of your account, setting your pre-bans, gearing your roster according to your pre-bans, and constantly changing and fixing things if losses happen, if it's not due to RNG or whatever, right? So that's a great
yeah.
point.
Yeah, and another thing, right, about the mentality to approach this game with, I think right, mentality is like often like looked over upon. Like, I think having a good mental is actually very, very important as a player, right? I'd say the few things when you're on a competitive rank climb, I would recommend like always make sure to review in between your breaks, right? And play in smaller amounts, like play in small amounts and then review in between,
Mm-hmm.
because that will help you like, you can't just mindlessly slam games, right, and expect like a positive change to happen.
Mm-hmm.
At least you have to see how you're losing. You have to take into account how you're losing, how you can improve, how your draft, how your plays can improve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or else you're just gonna be slamming games mindlessly forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then you know you also need to find someone. I think watching streamers is also very important. Yes, like learning to see how people play at the highest level, right, is also very important. You need
Mm-hmm.
to see how they think, how they process, how they like see, how they see the end game, how they plan out their game, basically, how they visualize their wins,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, right? So you can have an idea to work towards too. Stuff like that is very important also. Yeah.
Right, totally agree with you, 100%. And I feel like I also uh, these past couple seasons is what I realized too. Right, it's like it's not so much about quantity of games; it's more so about quality of games, right? And
Yeah.
critically thinking about your losses, like you said, and reviewing
Mm.
and stuff is really important
Mm.
for sure. 100% agree.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah, those are my units. So, is there
Okay.
anything else you would like to see?
Yeah, so I have a few questions prepared, and then we'll field some
I
questions from
see.
the chat as well.
Sure.
So overall, how
Mm.
did you feel about this particular season? Like, was there any difficulties throughout the season that were kind of notable, that you felt maybe were harder or whatever compared to your previous
Mm.
seasons? How did you feel
Mm.
overall?
I'd say this season plays generally a larger emphasis on being fast, right? Being fast opens a lot of doors for you, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like in certain places where people would play to slow down, let's say I have to play to slow down, right? You could just be 316 and outspeed.
Mm-hmm.
You can simply just play for the outspeed win con, right? Not having multiple win cons available, right? Like being faster, for example, which is a very common win con in this day and age because
Mm-hmm.
there's Laia, there's Lua, stuff like that is a pain. It's very bothersome. That's why the season is slightly tougher. And not only that, right? This season slightly, I'd say check your gear more, right? Because if you want to play, let's say Hasadi pre-ban, right? People are going to race you. People are going to apply speed pressure on you. And if you want to play Hasadi open, right? People are going to be tankier than you. People are going to like live, right? People are going to like do more damage than you. They are built for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So finding the balance between being able to flex from non Hasadi to Sadi matchups, right, was probably the most difficult part of the season for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I see,
yeah,
I see. Yeah, and I
and
think a lot of people would share the same feeling. It's almost like pick your poison, right? You either die this way or you
yeah,
die the other way, right? So,
yeah, yes. All right.
in your entire roster, I know you've shown a lot of notable ones, right? Effect resistance mock. Who were your
Yeah,
maybe say top three units that you feel helped you really secure? And without them, you probably wouldn't have been able to finish.
Ollie, Senya, SSB.
All right,
These three.
I'm glad we heard SSV in there. I'm glad.
SSV, yes. It would not be the same without SSV.
Nice.
All right.
Now, knowing that you do have limited resources on your account, right? Obviously, you're fully aware. You played so many seasons now, having limited
Yeah.
resources, being free to play outside of the $50 pack that you purchased. What is your
Yes, definitely.
thought process behind building your roster, right? I know you mentioned
Mm.
at the very end of looking at your units, you said look at your account, choose your pre-bans, blah blah blah. But if it's someone that's kind of coming into RTA and they see this video and they want to do that, right? What would you advise them to do to try to build their roster like that?
Okay, first of all, right, I'd say plan your pools very, very carefully, right? In a gacha, right, it's very easy to get FOMO. It's very, very easy to get FOMO, right? You're gonna see this new hot unit pop out, and you're gonna want to pool for it. But I think as someone with low resources, as a newer player especially, right, you have to decide on your playstyle early on, right? And I'd say most people will agree with me that being a turn two player is probably the cheapest way to get in to um to get into competitive RTA because rolling for speed is very, very hard to do unless your account is God Seed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I recommend is deciding on the kind of playstyle you want to play on early on, right? And then every season you see a new unit that gets released, right? You watch streamers play it first, right? And you see how they play. If they're playing a unit, let's say they're playing an aggro style, for example, and you're like already planning to play a turn two, right? You have to try to skip that unit. Unless like people specify or like the community specifies that that unit can also work in the playstyle you play for. So always, try not to give in to FOMO. try to pull for what you know is good for your account, right? Like let's say for me, right, there are a few things that I had to skip, sadly enough, right? I mean, I was AFK around FEDA Frida period, so I couldn't get them. But let's say Elena, right? Elena, I wasn't a very tanky account, so I skipped her, right? There was a bunch of regrets here, but it's fine. They're gone now. And
Mm-hmm.
stuff like Lua, right? I know I'm not very fast, right? I know I can't play. I know I can't make full use of her being like, let's say 300, 310, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then building around that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I skipped her basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like knowing what to skip, knowing what to build around, right, is very very important for planning out your account, right? Basically,
Mm-hmm.
having a good vision of what you want your account to look like in the future is important. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think that's
getting
a
into the
great
game.
point, right? It's like looking at a unit and then seeing how other people use it. I always tell people that come in the stream and say, "Hey, is Emma Huayang worth it?" And I always
Yeah.
say, don't go based off of how I'm playing or how Elven Mage is playing or whoever's playing, right? You have to look
Yeah.
at what they're doing with that character. Can you
Mm,
replicate it? Is it your style? Does it make
mm,
sense, right? And then you got to make a
yeah.
educated or not educated, but just calculated
Yeah.
decision, right? So great
Yeah.
point for sure.
Yeah, the key point here is that every account is different, right? The gear you get is different. The stuff you get is different. So base it off your gear, base it off how you want to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you go from there. Yeah.
Mm, understood.
Mm,
Now, another question that I have for you is I know you briefly
mm,
touched up on it about making adjustments, right? Always
mm.
changing builds, changing this. If you
Yeah.
die, you change it. If you lose this,
Yeah.
change it, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
how do you go about analyzing your games? And because you're tuned in such a specific way and you have limitations on
Mm,
resources, right? How
mm,
do you kind of, analyze like what needs to change? How would you go ahead and change it if it changes some other units to say you need more ER, you need more bulk here, but then it'll break these other
mm,
units. How do you kind of like
mm.
prioritize and how do you manage that with the limited resources you have on your account?
Good question, actually. So you'll notice, I mean, I did mention, right, that my roster is very small. That leaves me a lot of freedom to move my gear around, right? So I
Mm,
have a lot of spare pieces lying around, so I
mm,
can tune and change my account however I want,
mm,
whenever I need to, right? That's why I have a very very small compact roster,
mm,
but I do have a lot of space, right? That gives me a lot of space to use the remaining gear to make the small adjustments where I need to make them,
mm,
basically.
mm.
Yeah,
I see.
and for like adjusting, making those small adjustments, like identifying how you lose, basically. You just see like let's say you open up a match and then you see what caused you. I think it'll come naturally over time. You'll be able to identify what caused you the loss, basically. You can
Mm,
tell if it's a draft deficiency or if it's you messed up. You misplayed at a certain point. So once you've identified it wasn't a misplay, you look at where you could have drafted better
mm,
or where changing a unit could have made your draft better,
mm,
basically.
I see.
So that's how I adjust. Yeah,
Great. Good input for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
My next question is, in the very beginning, you mentioned that you wouldn't still be playing these 5 years of Epic 7 if it wasn't for
Mm,
community, right? Can you maybe highlight like what makes, having, a friendly community, a tight community or communities that you're
mm,
in, right?
mm,
That maybe help you improve as a player, right? Whether it's asking for help or
mm.
advice or whatever. What do you
Yeah.
think is the biggest benefit of being in a community that maybe is, RTA focused, friendly? Like what,
Mm.
what are some main things that are the most important to you from that?
I'd say the presence of the community. I mean, it makes it feel like like whenever you're climbing for a legend, you have multiple people sitting in VC like cheering you on. It makes the climb a little less taxing.
Mm-hmm.
It helps you feel better. But beyond that, right, having people to bounce ideas off, having people to experiment with is very important
Mm-hmm.
for the game as a whole. Because I mean, this is a slight criticism of the current meta, right? Let me throw it out there. Um, it's getting very very stale, especially since Lunel released the flow chart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Many people default, right? Many people default, right, to one or two drops. Like the whole time I was climbing, maybe there were like 2 to 3 unique drafts I saw. Very very rarely. Like only you can only like call, like you look at the legend like finishers. Like a lot of them usually play similar, if not the same units, right, all the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? There used to be a lot of like off meta and stuff like that. There used to be like differences. And like there's only like one or two unique players, right? Like maybe like Alexet is one very notable one. He plays for me all the time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, but with more experimentation, basically, it helps people see like alternatives, right?
Mm-hmm.
That they would naturally not consider. But I
Mm-hmm.
think this season a lot of people ended up just playing the same stuff over and over, so there was no need for adjustment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the meta just got very stale at a certain point. I'm sure quite a lot of people felt this also, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no need for experimentation because everyone just following the same 3 or 4 drafts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, experimenting, getting killed, and experimenting again is probably the most fun part of the game for me. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Right, trying to
Yeah.
find a solution, right? Something that seems impossible, and you keep dying and dying and dying, and then you figure it out. Right, it's a great feeling. I
Yeah.
can imagine.
Yeah. Yes. Like eventually figuring something out, right? It's like beating insane like, because as a kid I played a lot of Dark Souls as a kid. So like beating boss, like I was addicted to the feeling of beating a boss, like facing a strong challenge, right? Yeah. That I got addicted to that feeling, and like eventually beating like a strong boss, or like finding that my experiments finally work is what feels best for me in this game. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Just a few more questions from me, and then we'll have the chat field some questions for you. One of the ones from chat was, "How did you come up with your name Babu? Was it as like
Oh,
where did it
Babu?
come from?"
Oh, it's not actually very interesting. So in most of the games I play, I name myself Bob because I think it's the most NPC kind of name I can think of.
I see.
That's it. That's it. I just aspire, I aspire to be an NPC,
I see.
right?
Okay.
The reason why it's Bobu is because they fixed the thing where you could put like a strange letter behind your name. So it
Mm-hmm.
was Bob for a while, and then I realized I couldn't, so I just put U. So now it's Bobu.
I see.
Yay.
I see.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on ban protection and having, and maybe even potentially having more pre bans in future seasons? What do you think about that?
I would say there's band protection is good, but not for the competitive community.
Mm.
I'd say for the casual community it's good, right? But for the higher, the more like the people who have been playing RTA for a while, I think most of them will agree that band protection has made the game really, really stale, right? Because I think band protection is something necessary for how Smarket is moving forward. Because you're gonna notice that a lot of units, like SETI, like Senya, like Lua, they're all units built for 3P,
Mm-hmm.
right? So obviously they're gonna have to keep 3P there. But personally, I think I would be happier if 3P wasn't there, because 3P makes it so right that a lot of people can just play around the same draft, right? The drafts will always be the same, right? It,
Mm-hmm.
it lowers the, let's say, the differences, the adaptations, the different kinds of plays like pivoting.
Mm-hmm.
It's most people don't need to pivot anymore. Most people just play the same like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only important, yeah. So basically, in the past, how it worked is that people would pivot. People would switch their picks, but now the most important is just the 4, 5, and
Mm-hmm.
that's it. You just
Mm-hmm.
need to know how to do your 4, 5s. So it simplifies and dumbs down the draft game by quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my thoughts on 3P. Having more pre-bans, honestly, I think it's gonna be a necessity because at the rate Smallgate is going, I think they're releasing too many OP units.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, um, we'll just see how it goes. I don't think more prevents will solve the issue because even if there's more prevents, right, Smallgate is probably going to release another broken unit in a month or so,
Yeah,
like
that's
every
fair.
every 2 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not gonna solve the root cause. Like it's not gonna solve the root cause of the units just straight up being broken.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I know you
Yeah.
haven't pulled, bystander Huayang yet, but
Yes.
what is your opinions on her? And have you already theory crafted a build that maybe the chat, the stream, the video
Hmm.
watchers can see?
Okay, so build wise, I have been trying. But okay, let me give my opinion on Hwoyong first. Hwoyong is ass. Hwoyong's ass. She has a lot of anti synergies. You cannot play around her, right? The only way I'd say you could play around her is that you're a cleaver. You're an aggro player, right? And even as an aggro player, you don't get much use of her because the biggest win con with having Hwoyong, right, is killing the White Knight. And I've watched streams, right? I've watched streams where people like they soap an S3 and the unit, the Illinov is like 20% HP, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this unit needs to at least be able to do her job. Kill the Light Knight first. And then we can think about, the S2. The S2 defense is good, right? It helps her survive, right? She can anchor for you. But this being random can actually be bad for you also. You know, you could proc a Senya for fun. You could like the RNG the RNG part of the kit, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
not very good because in this day and age, right? If you want to be a pure DPS, survivability is there,
Mm-hmm.
but consistency, she's not even doing her job. Like the baseline job of killing light knights is not even done.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say this unit definitely needs some sort of buff, if not a rework,
Mm.
right? But if I were to build on my Hua Yong, right, instead of going full damage, I would probably, I mean, since I'm playing standard, right, I think LQC is the same stat line as well. I would probably go like counter pen, and then I would just build her really, really fat. Like, let me just put some random stuff on her. Maybe, let me see, like
Oh,
this, and then
we
I'll
we
show you
love
the
this tool. We love this tool. We love it.
yes, yes. Oh, that's good chat. That is not right. We do this, and then I'll just adjust from here. So okay, that's not good. That's not looking very good. But something like let me see my crit next. Yeah, we do this, and then we lower the CC.
So it
Hmm.
definitely looks like you'd be
Yeah.
aiming to do more of like a counter
Yeah.
style
Yeah. Counter
instead
style.
of like a destruction, try to nuke
Yes.
uh, builds, right?
Yeah. I basically play for the long game.
Mm,
Yes. And
understood.
yeah, like if you as a player, you just need to play for how your account is. You can't like say, oh, I want to do cleave Foyong, and then you look at your speed,
Hmm.
like you realize that there are certain limitations to your own account that will come in very handy.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. Well,
Yes.
I mean, those are all my questions. I don't think we have any
Hmm.
further questions in the chat.
Okay.
Before I give you your moment to kind of say whatever you want to say, get off your chest.
Yes.
All right. Once
Yes.
again, I do want to say thank you for giving me the opportunity of having this account review with you.
Hmm.
And I look forward to playing against you, however many
Yes. I
seasons
look
you
forward
continue
to
to play. Eventually figuring you out, hopefully, and not just dying every single
maybe,
time, right?
maybe you will.
Because you always
Who
start my
knows?
lose streaks for some reason. Thank you. Uh,
I am the beginning. That's not
yeah,
something you thank
him
me for.
father, him father.
In father.
But yeah, thank you so much, and it's
Hmm.
been really inspiring to kind of watch you work with what you have in terms of
Hmm.
the amount of gear and heroes that you have, and
Yes.
obviously the Babu draft that you kind of popularized last season with the Conk
Yes. The
SSV
Conqueror
ATI,
Lilias.
right?
Yes.
I would say you're one of the innovators in the community with doing that,
Yes.
obviously, historically. So
Yes.
yeah, it was my
Yes.
pleasure. So thank you so much.
Yes. My
And
brother.
yeah, the floor is
My brother as
yours.
well.
Whatever you got to say, whoever you got to thank, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So obviously, I will do my shoutouts. I have to thank a few people, right? To Biru, right? It's his birthday today, so happy birthday to him if he sees this, right? He's been my longtime friend, and whenever I get nervous, right, he's there to back me up. He's there to tell me kill one more, get in the ring, get back in there, right? Because I don't know why, right? Sometimes I get nervous, even after like I've like gotten like legend once or twice.
Hmm.
And I like to thank Face Pump, right? Face Pump, he introduced me to the Twitch community. Because back then I didn't know how Twitch worked, right? So
Hmm.
he was the first guy that I started watching, and then from there I branched out lah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And then to Mossman, Luna Suri, that guy, he's just a very positive guy. He inspires me to push myself further. And
Hmm.
then to all my guildies in Daijabu, especially Everdream, Airpoot, Sour, and Alexa. Those people, they're always in BC with me. They always laugh at me mouth, but at the end of the day, I know that that's to support me.
Hmm.
And finally, my inspirations, Lunel, AB, and KHM, right? Being able to being able to finally reach right the playing field that I've been looking up to for so long, right, means a lot to me. Being able to at least at least have a fighting chance at playing against them. It's really means a lot. Like just to tell me like how far I've come right since I've begun right.
Hmm.
Like 6 seasons of Emperor, just experimenting and fighting for it. You know, it means a lot to me basically. Yeah, and that's all the people I have to shout out. Yeah. And further from that, I think I'd say to cap off this review, right? Don't use my ID, right, as a way to say like, oh, brain gap or like skill gap, right, or ability gap. Use my ID to see that okay, I am someone not smart. I don't think I'm very smart, right? I think I'm someone built up by my effort. Someone that's put in the consistent effort over multiple seasons, improving myself over and over, right? Don't let your gear hold you back, or at least don't let the feeling that you're unlucky or you're not enough hold you back, right? See my account, see my gear, I see my units as like a baseline, right? That you or anyone like watching this video, anyone that wants to push for competitive rank in the future, that you can eventually make it with hard work, right? And like being able to like condense your gear in a way, you will be able to make it. Like this is my, I mean, I'm rooting for anyone that wants to get better at the game. It's always nice to see people improve. All right, and that's it. Yeah.
Wow, I'm getting goosebumps. That was so inspirational. I know that sounds sarcastic, but wow, that was wow,
Yeah.
very inspirational.
Yeah. Getting to see people improve has always been like my number one motivation for keeping to play this, like keep playing this game. I get to see so many people like come up, like especially like you, Vic. Like when you finished, right? I was actually really happy for you. Like, I
Awesome.
don't show a lot of emotions in my voice, right? But I've been watching you for a while. Like I love quite a lot, but when I watch your streams, I see you improve. I see you like doing plays. Like, yes, I see you misplay quite a lot, but besides the point, right? Seeing you like get better, like seeing you enjoy the process, seeing you like get nervous and then get over it, and then eventually hit the legend, that 4 minute celebration or like whatever how long you were celebrating, it's just good to see. It's just good to see. I always want to see more people hit their goals. It's a nice thing to see. Yeah,
I
and
completely
that's
agree.
what yeah, and that's what E7 is to me. It's the community. It's seeing people get better. It's seeing people experiment. New tech, new everything. Yeah, that has kept me this here for this long. Yeah. All right.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, especially for your kind words, and thank you for your time. I know it's quite late where you are, so I
Mhm.
really, really, really appreciate you
Yeah.
staying a little bit up, even though you may have
Yes.
already been awake. But it was a
Yes.
pleasure doing your account review.
Mhm.
Hopefully, next season we'll be in the same position where we can review your account again. I look forward
Yeah.
to playing you, like I said, and look forward to seeing you around the community more.
Mm.
And thank you so much for your time, Babu.
Mm. No problem.
All right. Have a great day.
All right. I just leave the VC now.
Cheers. Yes, sir.
All right. See you.
Bye bye. Ah, wholesome. Max wholesome, dude. I love Babu, dude. Our goat, dude.